Hey there, guys, I hope you're all doing well. Ever imagined a video game that was meant to be played and begins to play with your own life? A video game character that was meant to be a villain becomes an actual villain in your life and comes out of the video game to kill you? Yes. Today we are going to talk about a movie that is exceptional in every regard. It's probably India's best attempt at making a superhero sci-fi film. A movie that was not appreciated when it released 13 years back, but right now it is a cult classic movie among many people of that particular generation and age. Yes, today I'm going to review a movie on my channel that I've been long willing to do so. As a result, I've decided to make this long video about Shah Rukh Khan's best attempt at making a superhero sci-fi film, a movie that everybody used to hate initially, but 13 years down the line, people call it a masterpiece. Yes, the movie is basically 10 villains in one, essentially called Ra. Hey there, CineManiacs. This is John Matthew, and you're watching Cinemania 24/7. Ra.One is a 2011 Indian sci-fi action film directed by Anubhav Sinha, and it stars Shah Rukh Khan, Kareena Kapoor, Arjun Rampal, and Armaan Verma in some major characters. The movie tells the story of a gaming programmer who creates an indestructible character called Ra.One, and how on the night of the game launch, this villain comes out of the game to kill the programmer's son, and how this son is now supposed to use the game's protagonist, who is much, you know, inferior as compared to Ra.One, and somehow they have to battle it out before all hell breaks loose. The movie is a very innovative concept. The idea that video game characters are using some sort of wireless, LAN technology to project themselves into the real world, escape the game, and come out. Everything that's happening around them is literally bonkers as per Hindi movie standards. This movie was a massive attempt from Indian cinema. Never had I ever imagined that Bollywood, or in general the movie industry of India, will take an attempt as expensive and as ambitious as this. The movie has immense amount of inspirations. A lot of you will end up saying the movie has inspirations from Terminator, from other sci-fi movies as well, but let me tell you something. All those sci-fi movies have also got origins from some other sources as well. The Terminator was largely taken from a story in the 1960s. Its sequel was again a vivid dream that James Cameron managed to design on his own visions and own ideas of the sequel. And rest of the other sci-fi movies have always had some sort of a plot or some sort of a trope that is very, very evident in almost every Hindi film. But nonetheless, Ra.One was a very unique attempt, an attempt that I can never ever justify and imagine how important it was to us. This review will be very extensive, and I'll cover almost all the parts of Ra.One as a movie, and I'll tell you why you should watch it if you haven't. And this is probably India's best attempt at superhero movies. The basic story is pretty simple. Shah Rukh Khan plays Shekhar Subramaniam, a UK-based gaming programmer working at Baron Industries, which is one of the biggest industries in the gaming sector apparently. And they've been trying to create a new video game that sort of uses AI technology, where the characters can learn things on their own, and they don't have to worry about same things happening again and again. The character Shekhar, his son Prateek, is a complete polar opposite. He's this teenage kid who has a lot of cool friends and is doing the typical teenage stuff. He's not exactly in the good books of his father, although his father loves him, but that's not same vice versa. His son sort of thinks he's a little boring or something, and then in order to impress his son and his boss as well, Shekhar creates the game Ra.One, taking inspiration from his own son, but all hell breaks loose on the night of the game's launch. Because Ra.One, the titular villain of the movie and of course the game as well, he comes out of the game and begins to kill people. He kills Shekhar, he kills Akashi, he also kills Akashi's mum. He kills a lot of people in the movie. That is something never seen in a Bollywood movie before. At least sci-fi movies were not this violent in Indian cinema up until this point. The movie was a massive risk, and by the way, the story also revolves around the relationships between Shekhar, his wife Sonia, and the son Prateek, and of course the equation between G1 and Prateek, the alter ego of Shah Rukh Khan, apparently according to the game. The movie's story largely follows towards the end in the C parts, where we see how Ra.One and G1's story comes to an end, how the game that was supposed to be played begins to play with their lives, and they have to end this game in order to resume their normal lives. That's the entire concept of the movie. Largely, the movie is a very innovative story from Indian cinema, and I do feel a lot of the elements in the movie are very well shot. For a huge majority of the movie, I feel that the cinematography is absolutely spot on. Most of the VFX shots are impressive, and a movie as old as 13 years old has such good VFX is unimaginable to even believe. A lot of the VFX effects in many Bollywood movies that followed post Ra.One actually didn't age well, but Ra.One, even after all these years, has supposedly and surprisingly aged well. I cannot imagine the movie having such good effects. There are scenes in the movie where Ra.One comes out of the video game and then he wreaks havoc in the entire gaming room. Of course, that's a very difficult and a very disturbing scene to begin with. There are characters that he impersonates across the whole movie. There's a train stunt where Mr. SRK is jumping. Of course, he managed to do that. Ganesh, my god, Lord Ganesh. Nonetheless, the VFX shots in the movie were absolutely impressive. I did like the idea that the production values were very big, and for the first time ever, Bollywood didn't shy away from using big Hollywood set pieces and, of course, intricate set pieces. This is a movie that was made on a massive scale, and I do think none of the movies have ever come this close to making a world and a story or a movie as big as this. Of course, we had Bahubali films, but Bahubali largely was just like a live action adaptation of Lion King, except there was a lot of violence in the typical South Indian masala where you see the hero being worshipped to god levels. That's a different story altogether. I'll cover it some other day. But Ra.One is a movie in terms of its cinematography and its VFX is impressive. The visual effects, the shots, the framing part of it, and on top of that, the color grading is absolutely consistent all throughout the movie. I can never ever parallel to imagine that Shah Rukh Khan came up with such a brilliant idea of making a superhero movie for kids, except the marketing part faltered. We'll talk about that towards the end of the video, and I'll tell you why this movie is underrated even up to this date. The acting is pretty much okayish if you ask me. Shah Rukh Khan as the titular character G1 works really well, but his Indian counterpart, that is Shekhar Subramaniam, the human counterpart, is completely caricaturish at best. Let me be very real. Tamil people are not like that. They're just weirdly poking jokes in the movie that is not going to hit in many places. Many of you may not like it. Maybe the sense of humor in that movie was something that the audience were not ready for, because let's be very real, Hollywood movies also have a sick sense of humor sometimes, and you sort of want to laugh at it, but it's very vulgar and you don't want to laugh at it. That's how the entire movie's jokes are. There are jokes in the movie that you will still find funny in some places, and in some places the joke is pretty much flat. Shah Rukh Khan was okay enough as the G1 and Shekhar character. G1 was, by the way, the highlight in the entire film. Arjun Rampal as Ra.One is probably one of his career best performances. I cannot imagine this guy playing the titular villain and playing it to perfection. Mind you, to perfection. There's no other actor that can come close to playing Ra.One in a movie. There's no other actor. The scene where Ra.One is basically getting his heart back towards the end of the movie, and he's basically posing this way and that way, that's impressive. Impressive beyond belief. Nonetheless, Kareena Kapoor as the female lead is also doing a good job, except her character arc is pretty much okayish if you ask me. In the beginning of the movie, she isn't exactly very involved towards the film, but in the end, her role becomes more apparent. The other actors like Tom Wu, Shahana Goswami, Dalip Tahil, Satish, they've all done their roles well. They're like pass and go, but Tom Wu as Akashi and then again it turns into Ra.One for a little while is an impressive feat. I cannot imagine how cool that movie looked anyway. Nonetheless, this is the acting part of the movie, and I do feel the actors have done a great job, although Shekhar Subramaniam's character still sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I don't like that character. Coming to the action of the movie, the action is impressive. I cannot imagine a 2011 movie trying to do something as big as this. They managed to bring people from Hollywood. The costumes are made from American people. They actually did it really well, I have to say that. After all these years, you still see the costumes looking very attractive. There were some merchandise as well. I couldn't buy the action figures, unfortunately, but nonetheless, someday if I have my chance, I will. But okay, no regrets on that. I definitely think that the action pieces like the factory fighting scene, and then the ending sequence where they're playing the game in real life and of course in virtual reality, they're happening side by side. By the way, it's very difficult for most of you to notice, but if you do notice, check it out. Do check it out. The idea that the train stunt sequence was a very controversial sequence for its time is still beyond belief. There's a scene where Shah Rukh Khan actually jumps from above the platform and between the coupling, and then he blasts the coupling and sends the other parts of the coaches to you know the other side of the track so that the coaches don't collide with the CST station. That was impressive. That was still impressive. The CGI part is done really well in that movie, and I cannot imagine that scene being filmed today, considering that CGI has significantly improved in India, and Red Chillies VFX were doing a great job trying to improve the conditions of VFX in the country. Nonetheless, it was a great sequence. Most of the action sequences were well filmed, especially there's a scene where Shah Rukh Khan is jumping onto a building and doing backflips continuously in order to meet up with Ra.One, and then there's a scene where the tank explodes and Ra.One just gets reduced to cubes. Again, a very, very difficult scene to film, but fabulously done. There's another scene where Ra.One is cyber forming back into his actual form. There are cubes that are joining together. That's absolutely insane. That is the peak of Indian VFX, by the way. I cannot imagine this movie ever being remade today. And this scene, especially, can never be recreated, considering the fact that they did it at a time when there was a limitation of money, there was a limitation of financing in Bollywood. Nonetheless, this was a very fabulous scene, and the action of the movie still sticks out. Very real. Ra.One is a very, very genuine attempt from Indian cinema. I get it. But one of the biggest problems, the movie has too many inspirations. You can see inspirations from Iron Man, you can see inspirations from the Terminator series, obviously. The idea being that Ra.One is more stronger than G1, essentially being like the T1000 is more stronger than the T800, pretty much taken from the Terminator. The camaraderie between Shah Rukh Khan and Armaan Verma is pretty much similar to what Ed Furlong and Arnold Schwarzenegger managed to achieve in Terminator 2. I guess they've seen a lot of Hollywood movies. They decided to use some plots and some elements from those films, but nonetheless, one of the things that makes Ra.One very, very unique is the idea that this superhero is pretty much a pixel character, a game character. We've never seen a superhero in all across DC, Marvel, or whatever you want to call them, a superhero that actually is a game character. He's practically indestructible, because let's be very real. Even if you sort of, throw a bomb at G1, G1 is not going to die, because he'll still form back into cubes and he'll just come into his normal self. Ra.One is an indestructible villain. Let's be very real. He can take any human form, he can become anything that is basically human in nature, and he's very malevolent, by the way. His entire personality has been coded into malevolence. The whole character is written from the point of view of, the character Ra.One. Ra.One, by the way, is an Indian mythological character in the epic Ramayana. For those of you who don't know what Ramayana is, you can go give it a read and you'll realize how the entire themes of the movie work together. The movie has a lot of references from Ramayana working together side by side, nonetheless. But I do feel that the story department could have been worked really well. There are deleted scenes in the movie that were actually fabulous, and if you could have integrated them into the actual mold of the movie would have looked much better. There were scenes in the movie that did deserve to see themselves in the final cut, but we didn't see that. Nonetheless, I still feel that the movie did well. Of course, the story has a lot of loose ends. There are a lot of points in the movie that could have been worked well. The characters could have been better fleshed out. The acting could have been much better. All the money that they spent on the CGI could have actually been spent on the story as well. They could have solidified the story in certain ways, but nonetheless, it's okay. They couldn't do it because budgetary constraints, and on top of that, they also had a problem with trying to make a movie in such a limited budget. The movie was a 3D film, by the way, when it came out on 26th October 2011. We're almost a week away from the 13th anniversary. That's the reason I decided to make this video anyway. These are my problems with Ra.One. The movie has a lot of problems with the CGI department, in terms where some of the VFX shots don't look good anymore because it's aged, of course, and on top of that, the acting, the casting department, the deleted scenes, the jokes, and of course some of the dialogues didn't sit well with me, but nonetheless, it's okay. Coming up, Ra.One is a very, very ingenious attempt from Hindi cinema. You can never see a movie like this anymore, because let's face it, nobody's going to make a movie like this. Because Ra.One anyway was a hit film, of course, only because of the fact that it made a collection that was much higher than its budget. So according to that logic, even if you factor in the marketing costs, it's still generating a profit, although not a massive profit. Let's be real. The movie definitely deserves a re-release, I guess, because a lot of movies are seeing re-releases these days, and I do feel that most of the movies that are re-releasing these days are anyway meant for just giving the audience a massive nostalgia of what those movies used to look like. Ra.One is a genuine attempt of superhero madness in Indian cinema, and it has been really done well. I cannot imagine another movie, any other film trying to do it this well. This was the entire review for Ra.One, guys, and I hope you do like Ra.One as a movie. Do check it out. I own it on DVD here with me. Of course, I cannot show it to you because of time constraints and the problems I have. But nonetheless, thank you so much for watching my video, guys, whoever has watched it up until this point. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Please keep buying films on physical media, like I always tell you. That's the best and the most amazing way to protect movies for long. Stay safe, take care, and Godspeed.